Hello learners, this is Shawn from KinderCare Education with you again. Today we're going to explore a mixture of a science and an art project. For this experience, we're going to look at what's called firework art. The supplies you're going to need are fairly simple. You're going to need to have some coffee filters you can pick up at the store, just the normal types, nothing special with them. You're going to want to have a spray bottle or a way to spread small amounts of liquid at a time. We're going to be using water. This is just a cheap to-go travel spray bottle. You could also use a straw, just release it one drop at a time, or you could sprinkle water on by getting your fingers wet and flicking it onto the surface, so any of those are an option. I have two here because there's the option to do an extension, which we'll talk about at the end, but it's not necessary. And then you'll want to have just some regular colors that are typically going to be water-based. So just colored markers. These need to be markers. They want to be water-based, nothing permanent. And then you'll want to have some type of surface that you can wash and clean off. So I've used a plate earlier. People use paper plates. In this case, I'm using a towel, really easy to throw into the wash or just stick under the sink because it'll clean up really fast. So what we're going to do today is we are going to explore making art on a coffee filter, and then we're going to see what happens when we add a liquid to that art we make. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this coffee filter, spread it out, make it nice and flat so that way it's easy to draw on, make it basically like a piece of paper. You don't want it to be something that's curled up too much, but it's going to have some natural curl. Once we get it wet, that's actually going to flatten it out for you. And then we're going to draw onto this coffee filter, and you can draw anything you want. So you can draw people, masks, buildings, pets, or just random shapes and designs to see what happens. The experience is going to involve us drawing on the paper and then spraying a liquid or dripping a liquid with our fingers onto where we drew to see what happens to that marker. So what I want you to think about while you're drawing is, with how thick or thin or how hard you press on with the marker, what do you think is going to happen when you spray the liquid directly onto those colors? So what do you think will happen? Once we've gotten our paper ready, you're going to take the markers and you're just going to draw anything you feel like. For me, I like to draw just some random lines and see what happens from it. So I'm not going to draw necessarily a face. I've done masks and different things, see what happens. But I want to explore drawing with different colors. I want to make some of the areas really thick, and I want to make some of the areas really thin, just to see what happens when I draw with my different colors. So now I've drawn on my coffee filter just a variety of crazy lines. At some points, the colors are really thick. At some points, the colors are really thin. And these are water-based markers. What do you think is going to happen when I spray this liquid, this water, onto my filter that is a water-based color? Do you think it's going to stay the same? Do you think it's going to wash away clean and will clean the filter? What do you think is going to happen? So now that I've drawn on the filter, I'm going to take, just for this first one, just some regular water. I have a little spray bottle. Again, you can get your fingers wet. You can just drip it onto the spots, and you're going to spray. Now, you're going to want to get the filter pretty wet. Make sure the filter really absorbs it. But once you start spraying, try not to move the filter around, because then you might end up folding or tearing or messing up the filter. So you're going to take the water and you're going to start just spraying it, keeping it in place. Really get close and spray on the colors. All right, so now I've sprayed on my filter. And if you look, my filter now has all the colors. They're starting to run around to different places. To make it a little bit easier, I'm going to get myself another filter or get a white surface or a bright colored surface, so that way it can really shine through on my sprayed filter. So now when I let this dry, and you'll notice it's actually a water base. So the water base means that these markers have a base mixture of water combined with other substances to give it the color. So because it has that water base, I can now actually wipe my hands on it, and it's going to cause it to spread even a little bit more. But what we end up making is this firework style pattern, or if you drew a specific item, you'll notice that the colors start to spread. Do you know what it's called when the color lines start to spread out? In art and graphic design, that's called bleeding, and that is where the color begins to spill off into other areas that it wasn't intended. the line begins to spread out because it's water-based, and since a filter is designed to capture and hold liquid, it is spreading out into that filter to create a different color. So my challenge to you would be to draw different patterns and styles, spray it with water or drip with your fingers and see what happens, but then also make sure that you explore drawing with different thicknesses of your lines or drawing multiple colors close together and see what happens when they run into each other. Do we get any blending of the colors? Do the colors stay separate? And you can even go a step farther and mix other liquids, it has to be liquids, into your water. So try mixing in a water-based food coloring or soap or vinegar and have your family help you spray that on the paper and see if that does anything different with it. As always, thank you for coming and hanging out and learning with me today. If you get a chance to do the activity, make sure that you have your family post it onto Instagram and Facebook and social media with the hashtag KinderCare so all of our families can see all the activities everyone's getting to try. We look forward to seeing you, and make sure you always check in as we post new phonics, music, reading, or science explorations on a regular basis. Thank you.